Hey, folks, welcome to the View Podcast, episode 16. With me, Jer. I'm joined tonight by Kev from Leeds House and the collaboration between Leeds House and Not Another Leeds podcast that goes out every week. You should check that out. And Luke from Ought to Know Better as well, who is recovered from going away to Norwich at the weekend.
Just about.
Luke, how are you doing, Luke? How have you been? How are you feeling?
Yeah, good, mate. Yeah, really well. Thank you for asking. Yeah, messy weekend. Yeah, I think I stopped drinking about 5 o'clock Sunday morning. In the end, so yesterday was spent literally just feeling sorry for myself, and then today when my alarm went off for work, I was like, Jesus, is the weekend over already? But actually, I've been up for most of the week and drinking, so I couldn't really complain.
Was there limbs, Luke? Were there limbs on?
There was, mate. I was just saying to Kev actually a moment ago in the lobby. It was probably or possibly the worst away atmosphere I've been to for a long time, for many years. Until we scored, I don't think conceding that early helped things. But they've got a drummer over near the away corner as well now, so he was getting their fans going. They were quite loud, and it just sort of. Anything we started to get going in terms of atmosphere just disintegrated quite quickly. And look, when you're missing all those chances, and I'm sure we'll come on to talking about the game in a moment. We're missing chances; they're taking theirs, and you're going at half time 2-0 down. Then it is difficult to try and enjoy the game. Do you know what I mean? But it was a really poor atmosphere up until the sort of 62nd minute, whatever it was, when we managed to claw one back. So and then it fully changed. The atmosphere was all Leeds. That you didn't really. They knew it was coming.
Yeah, you could see it in the pitch as well. There was kind of a Southampton-y vibe off the entire game up until we scored. Until we scored, I didn't think we would score. I actually just thought this game will peter out and it'll be 2-0 or we'll get caught for a third on a counter, because it was so flat and it kind of felt like that. And then, as you say, as soon as the goal went in, all of a sudden everything kind of changed. But I suppose having a drummer on your lip that close isn't great either to watch a match. I can't stand drummers in crowds. I don't.
He got some great stick though when we won. when we got the winner, I tell you.
Were you close to the Ipswich fan who managed to find his way into the Leeds end?
He was literally a couple of rows behind me. Yeah, I didn't know what to make of that. I didn't know if it was a Leeds fan that had brought it just to sort of mock the Ipswich fans. But it turns out he was a season ticket holder at Portman Road. Find that a little bit bizarre, but yeah, do what you want. I mean, how can Leeds fans not get tickets in the away end, but there's an Ipswich fan can?
Right. I was going to ask that. I'm sure there's a Leeds away fan who regularly travels to games, really annoyed seeing an Ipswich fan sitting in a seat that could have been theirs. So yeah, it was an odd one for me. Kev, how are you doing, mate? How's your weekend been?
It's been all right. Started crap on Saturday and ended brilliantly. It's just been good. It's good, feel good weekend after the win. I'm really happy with Leeds at the minute. That'll probably change on Wednesday, but yeah, it's been pretty good.
We've always got it in us, don't we?
Oh yes, we do.
Mood. At least we got the weekend. Midweek is not so bad as long as they're not in the weekend. There's a couple of bits I wanted to get into and talk about tonight. I want to talk about the Norwich game just in a couple of different kind of ways, and then I also wanted to talk about Archie Gray, as well as have a conversation with the loan players who are out at the moment, because there's a lot of talk about certain players returning and others not, and wanted to get everyone's thoughts on that as well. But we start off with the Norwich game, Kev. Just from a positive perspective, what did you take away from the game?
That we can dig out results, especially when we're backs against the wall. I think Norwich will be up there this season. I think they'll be in and around that top 10 into the playoffs. And to get a result away from home, 2-0 down, and come back and win 3-2, it just shows that there is heart in that team, and they can get a result when it's needed. And it also showed me that Farke's got a big pair of cojones putting on all those subs and putting Dan James at left back. I've never seen nothing like it from Daniel Farke this season. So it just shows that he can be brave at times. And wow, did it work? So yeah, it's just good, very good.
He made a comment, I believe, where he said it felt like a game that we would win, so he went for the win. But I mean, finishing the game with 6 attackers on the park, kind of, well, not finishing the game because he brought a couple of subs towards the end, but getting close to the last 10 minutes with 6 attackers on the pitch is a ballsy move at the best of times.
All of them played well though when they come on, and it actually worked. The way they were passing that ball around, Dan James at left back, Imogen and Anthony and stuff, it was just fantastic. I could not believe even Bamford played well until he got near the 6-yard box. But apart from everything he did was good. It's like why don't we just play like that all the time? Just play 6 up
Right.
front. Yeah, and Ampadu in front of a back 3, and he can just drop in when needed.
And they seemed
crazy.
fine. They
Yeah.
seemed like we had plenty of defenders. Yeah, I
know.
felt sorry for Paddy. I'm getting to the point where I'm starting to feel sorry for the man when I see him around the edge of the box and just looking completely absent of any kind of confidence around the 18-yard line. Because he does some good stuff. Like his pressing is good and his work rate is
Yeah.
good. And then you get to the edge of the box and he just doesn't look like he wants to even try and have a shot, let alone put his foot through it. Luke, what were your positives to take from that game before we get to the negatives?
I think the prime positive was having a plan B and a plan C and a plan D. Is having all these different options, and it's clearly something they've worked on training, because they evolved and they molded into a completely different shape that none of us. I mean, in the stands we were like, who the bloody hell's playing anywhere? Do you know what I mean? Do you know what I mean? It's like, who is playing where? Because we couldn't work it out. There was 3 natural strikers on the pitch at one stage. Dan James, who's played a striker under Bielsa for half a season. Then you've got Willie Nonto, who's played as a striker before. That's 5 centre forwards potentially on the field. It was all just a bit mad, but it was organised chaos. It was like something I've never seen. It was honestly, we really enjoyed it in the stands. I really enjoyed watching it. And just to reiterate what Kev said, the balls to do that away from home when you're losing, it could have gone terribly wrong. It could have gone horribly wrong, and it didn't. It just seemed to work. And I know you mentioned Bamford there, but he was actually one of my positives when he came on, because he was threatening. Although he's useless in front of goal, and look, he's never been the type of player who's going to score every chance. He needs 10 chances to get a goal, but he did look threatening. There was a moment when he linked up with Ruter on the edge of the box, and there was 4 or 5 defenders around the 2 of them, and they still managed to get a shot off. Tame shot in the end, but yeah, I think in terms of anything else, yeah, just the character and the fight, and just they're enjoying playing football. You can see each and every one of them is enjoying playing for Leeds United, which is not something we saw for the majority of last year, apart from maybe the first few games.
Yeah, I on the Paddy stuff again as well. I think Paddy might be a little bit surprised to get the link-up play that he got with Rutter. I think that might have been a shock that he actually got that ball back twice, not just once, but twice back off Rutter. And there was the makings of I've said this year, I just don't want to see a situation where Paddy ends up starting up front and Rutter plays in the 10. I just want to see the other way around. I want to see Pirro in the 9, and I want to see him in the 10 and Rutter in the 10. But when you looked at the link up between the 2 of them, there was a question in my head of going, well, maybe this is a good idea. Like maybe Barca is seeing some stuff in training that these guys, well, if Bamford does get fit, then you're looking at a possibility of partnering the 2 of them together, and maybe you could, because Rutter will keep looking for other players. I mean, he's not the same level, but Kamar Roof was a little bit like that when he played as well. When he get the ball on the feet, he was always looking to lay it off to somebody and go again. And Rutter's a bit similar, although far more skill in Rutter than there was in Roof. But it's great to see it. Yeah, and I thought Paddy was maybe a little bit surprised by that one. And then the shot was kind of toe poked in the end because it just got surrounded by players. But nice to see it. Some lovely moments in that. Luke, going reverse order, just from a negatives perspective, was there any parts of the game that bothered you, like properly bothered you to the point where you're thinking this has happened a couple of times, or
Yeah, I think we're obviously going to come on to Archie Gray in a moment, but yeah, he looked laggy. He was turned quite easily. He sat off his man as a right back, which gave him time to turn and move away. But also, I thought we'd nailed it in terms of defense from set pieces, but we looked really volatile from set pieces again, from corners. They scored a second corner which was disallowed, rightfully disallowed, but yeah, we did look a little bit fragile from set pieces. But yeah, I don't think other than that, I mean, it didn't feel like we were going in at half time losing 2-0, because the amount of chances we'd had, I still felt we'd had the better chances, although they'd taken their 2. I still felt we'd had the better chances to actually be in front. But yeah, in terms of sort of the main negatives, I think probably just the probably just Archie being played. I think maybe for want of a better word, but yeah, the set pieces organisation as well. It looked amateur at times.
The zonal marking looked pretty open If I'm being honest, the first time I really noticed their zonal marking is something clearly David Wagner had tapped into, because they had 4 or 5 different routines that were all designed to be away from the block of players. I didn't think it did us any favor, especially the front post having Pirro as the front man marking. Even for the goal, he kind of pushes the Norwich player onto the ball,
and then
Duffy
goes,
onto it, and gets a flick in, which is unfortunate. But yeah, there was a couple of bits there. The chances is an interesting thing because we keep saying at some point we're going to batter somebody because the amount of chances we're creating. And I'm starting to wonder, do we have the right people in the box to convert these chances? Because we created way too many really good, and then 2 of them at least were clear-cut chances in the first half to take the lead. Dan James should do better with his effort. And then you look at Joe Pirro 1-on-1 with a goalkeeper and gets it all wrong on his left foot as well. So
Kamara as well. Kamara was arguably the better of the chances.
The best one. Yeah, he dragged that across. That's 3-0 at half time, and you put yourself under huge amounts of pressure then when you don't convert them, and then seeing how, again, yeah, you're right. The goal. I think if there's no foul on Meslier, I don't think Meslier saves that anyway, which would be a bigger concern than to say, yeah, against teams that have bigger players, and Norwich were always going to be that kind of team. We might struggle still. But we've been saying this for, I don't know how many years, we've been talking about Leeds from corners. We don't look like we're going to score them, and we always look like we're going to concede them. So it's never really been sorted, no matter how many times we change the players. It kind of always looks like it's still the same problem.
Just on that, Jared, then, do you think we're substituting a bit of physicality for other benefits, though? We haven't got the big. I mean, the biggest player is Pascal Struijk by a country mile. Him and Rodon are arguably quite good in the air. But do you think we're substituting in terms of maybe not even just the signings we've got, but the current players we've got? Their ability to win the ball in the air. Are we actually substituting that with actually their ability to play football and bring it out from the back? We've seen Pascal and Joe Rodon do that really, really well. And maybe conserve that a bit of energy when rather than going up and trying to win headers and whatever else. Do you think there's much to be said for that?
I think so. Yeah, I think it's a decent show because it's not a big side that we put together. I mean, outside of Stoke and Rodon, it's not a very tall side. Sam Byram's pretty tall, but you're relying on Bamford when he is on the park to clear balls from corners, and he does a very good job of that. Sam Byram the same. But outside of that, it's a pretty small team. Like Nonto's not big, Somerville's not big, Pirro's not huge, and he's about 5'11", 6 foot, maybe 6 foot, maybe a bit more. But they're not huge players, and Pirro doesn't attack the ball with his head in the box either. Rutter can't head the ball, which is a problem for him. He can jump, but you don't know where the ball is going to go off his head. So I think there's probably a bit of that, but I think you're shopping in a market where it's one or the other. You're not going to get both. Where if you look at the top of the Premier League, they're recruiting players that are big and tall and can also play ball. But I think we have to sacrifice one for the other. I think we've done that for a couple of years.
I think you saw it. Bielsa. That's how with the way we defended set piece under Bielsa. That's what Bamford always played, because he was always back, and he saw it when we scored our third. He was the one who headed it out, wasn't it, to Rutter, and want to play the ball down the line. So I still think that's in Farke's mind somewhere, that Bamford could help out in the box. This is why he wants to keep him around and getting him time on the pitch, especially towards the end of games when it's going to be a bit shaky. He's going to play a lot. Bamford was. If we're winning the match 2-1, 1-0, and it's 10 minutes to go, Bamford will be brought on, not just for his pressing, but for also defending in the box. Because to be fair to him, he's actually quite good at it. Defended in the box, Bamford. It's one of the best of the ones that we've had that can do that defense from the front. So, well, he's going to play more games than we think he is, Patrick Bamford, this year.
I think he's not far off starting a game. Being honest about it, I think there's probably one coming soon. Because you're going to have to start resting these players at some point. They're playing a huge amount of football. This will probably get onto the changes for the game against Stoke. But Archie Gray. So we've been all waxing lyrical about him all season, about how well he's playing, how good he was at right back last week. Daniel Farke makes a comment, but he's asked a question in the press conference about him being overplayed for England. He's played 90 minutes in space of 2 weeks, something like that, total, which is an insane amount of minutes for a young player to be playing. And he talks about that's not great for his development, but then starts him against Norwich, but more importantly, finishes him against Norwich as well. So he plays 98 minutes of a game again. Kev, are we doing the right things here with Archie, or are we taking advantage of ability here? Should we be a bit cleverer about what we're doing with Archie?
I agree that we have to be a bit more clever than what we're doing with him. And I agree with Luke, what he said as well. I thought he started the game not as well as we would like to have hoped. But I thought he finished really, really well. He was winning a lot of tackles in the end, winning a lot of headers, especially in that last eight minutes with the added on time. He was like one of our best players during that period. So I mean, I can't judge Daniel Farke on what he does on the
But
pitch.
he was back
Yeah.
in midfield for the last 8 minutes, because when Dan
Yeah.
James went back to fullback and they swapped change
Yeah.
to the back three, he went into the centre of park. So they kind of put
Yeah.
him back in his happy zone, if you want to
Yeah.
call it that.
I do think he's probably due a rest, and I think we might see that on Wednesday. I really do. I think he's definitely due a rest. I think this is the sort of game where you're going to see the likes of Luke Ayling, possibly even Liam Cooper, maybe get a game because of the way that Stoke play, and you need your older heads at the back. I think Archie Gray will be rested on Wednesday, ready for Saturday, because you probably want him at home as well. And the way that Huddersfield play, Archie Gray is perfect for that game. So yeah, I think he'll get rested on Wednesday.
Luke, what do you think?
Look, there's a lot to be said for it, him being played so often. He's clearly well thought of. We've got an experienced right back in Luke Ayling, who's clearly not as good at football anymore. He's lacking a bit of pace, and I think that's the reason Archie Gray played, because of the wingers we were up against. I think that it would have caused Luke Ayling even more trouble than they caused Archie. And yeah, quite simply put, I just think Farke's going to play the best team available to him in every game until they're injured. He's going to consider, and whether it's the right or wrong thing to do. I just feel that you've ultimately, if you want to win every game, you play your best 11 players, whether they're, now I understand it could be detrimental to his development, but on the other hand, there's a lot to be said for match experience. So every game he plays, he's getting better and better and more experienced. So, yeah, it's a tough one, and I'm probably on the fence with it, to be fair. I'm glad he started, although as Kev said, he started quite poorly and he was turned. I think it wasn't Rowe, was it? It was the other winger who was up against in the first half.
Hernandez.
Sarah ran on that a couple of times as well.
Yes.
Yeah.
It was turned relatively easy because he was standing off, and he whether he was told to do that or what, I'm not sure. But yeah, you put Luke Ayling in that position, and he's left for dust. At least Archie Gray got back. And still put some pressure on. So I don't know. I think the England thing's a tough one, and certainly for youth level, I think there should be some rules or regulations to state how many minutes they're allowed to play over a period as a young player. Because especially if they've got club commitments as well and they're playing at a decent level first team football. I think it's always club before country, because that's who pays the wages at the end of the day. So yeah, I think if anywhere he should have been rested, it should have been over the international break. But yeah, I still fancy him to start on Wednesday.
Yeah, I'm thinking the same thing myself. But I keep going back to this thing about Leeds didn't release Gray for the last set of under-19 internationals. And have England just gone this time? Well, we've got him this time, so because of what you did the last time, we're going to just play him in every single game. Because, I mean, I don't think it was necessary for him to play in the three matches he played for England back-to-back. I don't think it was necessary, but I also don't think it was overly necessary for him to finish the game for Leeds either. I think Shackleton could have come on at right back at that point as well, or Ayling could have come on a bit earlier. But, yeah, I can see Shackleton maybe being in the mix to start Wednesday night, or at least the weekend, but I think Archie could do with a bit of a rest. I think some of the players could do with a bit of a rest, to be honest, but who do you do it against? Because this is a ridiculously competitive league, and if you do it in the wrong game, you could scupper your rest of your season. You can't afford to lose too many more games. So,
do you think Farke's a little bit scared of what happened against Southampton by not putting Joe Rodon in? I know that the backlash he got from that, and he wants to play all his best team every game, while Luke just said no, because he did get a bit of backlash about that, didn't he?
Yeah, but we have gone and spent money on players that are sitting on the bench as well. Like, I mean, even from a midfield perspective, Ilya Groove is just sitting there gathering dust, and they spent a few million on the guy. So, I mean, they spent enough money to bring him into the club or think he was good enough to come in. Could he do a job in midfield? Where Archie doesn't have to play in that position for a week. Can somebody else? Can Shackleton do a job at right back? Give him a break until Spence is back, and then you've got more options. But I get the whole argument of playing your best team. And as a manager, I probably would do the exact same thing. But I just think looking at what happened to Sam Byram over the years and knowing how we rinsed every second out of Sam Byram that we could when he was coming into this team for us as a young player, because it was so bad at Leeds at the time. But I just don't want to see us do the same thing to Archie and end up with a player 5-6 years down the line who's a bit broken because of it. We saw players get broken or being overplayed by Bielsa as well. And you just don't want to get to that situation, especially if you've got an option. If you've got a good option to give him a break, or even again, as we say, you get to 75 minutes, take him off. Give him the extra 15 minutes. Give him a little bit of a break. But
I think
it's
for
a
me,
strange one.
I think for me, just on that one with the 75 minutes, you've an argument to say we might not have won the game if it had gone off the field.
yeah.
You know, I mean, once the game's won, yeah, but then I mean, you look at the subs we'd already made, and I can't. Did he use all 5 substitutes at the weekend?
But the end he did, yeah, because he brought Cooper nailing on the very end.
That's right.
As well.
He brought Cooper nailing on towards the end. But yeah, I mean, he could have probably brought him off there. Brought him off there, to be fair, but. Yeah, man, it's a tough one, isn't it? And he's clearly really well thought of, which is the important thing. And he's clearly a talented player, so you probably could have brought him off a bit earlier.
I should kind of frame this by saying I'm not complaining about Archie Gray playing or Daniel Farke. I'm delighted with how Archie Gray's playing this season. I'm delighted how the manager we've got in Farke. But then, you know, there's these things that do pop up and you kind of look at it from the perspective of, well, if you're going to criticize England for playing the guy too much, then maybe you should have a think about it yourself. And maybe, you know, it can look like you're talking out of 2 sides of your mouth, you know, a little bit, but is what it is. Kev, I want to move on and talk a bit about the loan players that we've got out at the moment. There's a lot of them, as we know.
As we know.
Most of them left with the same sentiment from the fans of, that's you gone, see you later, don't come back. In the last 2 weeks, there's been a bit of talk about certain players coming back to Leeds. Last week, Rasmus Christensen's agent said that the plan has always been for him to come back to Leeds at the end of the season. Brendan Aronson has been the one that's been kind of widely accepted will come back to Leeds at the end of the season because of his age and what they paid for him. Jack Harrison is another player that's expected to come back again because of the ability level that he has, but he's gone out as well. And then you've got Max Vober, who yesterday has been described as a player that Leeds want back after his loan is finished. Now, all of these loans are subject to Leeds getting promoted, because if they don't get promoted, all those loan clauses are still in effect for next season again. But if Leeds do get back, they come back. But before we go on to anything else, just talking about those players specifically. So if you look at Christensen, Vober, say Aronson and Harrison, what's your thoughts around the loan players going out and then any of them even coming back to the club?
The ones you've mentioned, there's always been a bit of a question mark about them, a question mark around them for me, because if you watched Angus Kinnear on Square Ball, he didn't mention any of those as like they've forced their way out or anything like that. And I get the feeling that some of them may have been asked to leave the club for financial aspect of it. I don't know. Obviously, maybe that's just me being a conspiracy theorist and being a bit weird with it. But I've always had something in my mind. But why didn't he mention those guys as well? Because he didn't really mention. I know he mentioned a little bit about Jack Harrison, but the rest of them didn't. Maybe they've been asked, or they didn't have like a relegation wage clause in their contract, so they've gone out on loan so they get their full wages. I still think there's something around that we don't know all the details of, and. Would I have them back?
Yeah.
I don't know. I can't answer that right now. I didn't want them back the minute they left. And some of them I don't want back because they're just not good enough. Like I'd say Aronson, Christensen, them two are definitely not good enough for the Premiership. I honestly believe that now. After watching them for a whole year last year, I don't think they're good enough for the Premiership. Harrison, he showed last week that he could whack goals in from the top corner, but he'll probably go on a game now where he won't do it for a run now where he won't do anything for six games. Voba, I thought he was really good in a bad bunch of defenders that we had last year, but he seems like he's probably a bit injury prone as well. I don't know. It's hard. It's a hard question to ask because we don't know all the circumstances about those guys. About leaving on loan because it all just happened, didn't it? All really, really fast, and it weren't like. And then the add-on stuff with the Sinistera stuff, we knew all about that because that was released to us and told us what's happened. But the other guys, we don't know nothing. So I'm not sure if the club have maybe asked some of these guys to leave on loan, and for value purposes to get them off the wage bill and to maybe bring in a loan fee for them. And because we'll be told about these contracts too, I just don't know what to think right now. It's a weird question, and I guess you guys probably think the same as well, because half the fan base don't want them back, and some people say, "Oh, they'll have Jack back because Jack's been with us for years." It's just really, really strange situation I'm in because I've never seen another club do this apart from Leeds, which is proper Leeds.
It's an interesting. Harrison especially is an interesting one because I think Everton fans got to see both sides of Jack Harrison in the last 2
Yeah.
weeks. So they saw the Jack Harrison who can ping a ball in with his left foot to the top corner and rack in with assists. And then they saw the version of Jack Harrison who gets caught in possession against Liverpool, ball breaks down the park, and they had a bit of red card because of where he's lost it. So they got to see both sides, but then he was hooked at halftime as well. So you get to see both sides of Jackie. I'm not 100% sure if there was a loan release clause in his contract. I kind of feel like there probably was because they were offering it to everybody at that point, and he was the last one. Luke Christensen, just was saying to Kev there, Christensen's agent last week says he's expected to come back and was always the plan to return. Vober's been mentioned in the press in Germany with Kicker this week saying that Leeds want him back to replace Cooper, that Cooper won't get offered an extension on his contract. The plan is to bring Vober back, but that could be an end of the season decision before that gets made. Aronson's expected to come back because of his age and the amount of money Leeds paid for him. And then Jack Harrison's expected to come back because of his length of service to the club, and he signed a brand new contract as well. Where's your thoughts on this with these two? Is it a case of this grouping of players? None of them welcome back because of how they left, or is there an exception?
I kind of agree with Kev. It's a very, very tough question. And because we don't know the ins and outs, the Leeds fan in me, the proud Yorkshireman, says never have them back. They've left they left a sinking ship because they thought they were too good for the team, and they don't deserve to ever be supported by Leeds fans again and wear the white shirt. So that's the way I look at it. If I'm quite cynical and want to be a little bit, daft about it. But I suppose the sensible side of me says, look, are they going to improve our team if they come back? Now, Aronson's not, because he's proven he can't even do it at a lower level in Germany. Wober, probably, as Kev said, best of a bad bunch last season. But he was the best. He firmed us up defensively. The first game he came on and played CDM in a cup game. I think it was at Cardiff. And he threw himself about. He just knew what it was like to be Leeds. He felt like he belonged here. Christensen, no, softest Viking I've ever seen. Everyone was touting him as the next Berardi for us, and he couldn't. Far away from he couldn't even lace Berardi's boots. Although I do have to say with Christensen, he played better when played centrally and didn't have to mark anybody. When he played centre back and even central defensive midfield,
mid, he was his best game.
Yeah, he had his best game for us. So there is. With the right, we've got to take into account who was coaching these players last season as well. I think
I was going to say the exact same thing, because we were taught the whole team was taught to be like within the width of the pitch was the 18-yard boxes instead of the actual line. So yeah, it's just a strange one, isn't it? And then towards the end of the season, it just turned into a mega show, didn't it? So yeah.
I don't see Aronson going anywhere. Nobody's going to sign him for the money we paid for him, so he will be coming back regardless. I don't think we have an option. I think the difference is with those three specifically. Not Harrison, Wober, Christensen, and Aronson. They haven't been here that long, so the way they left didn't feel as bad as Jack for me, because Jack almost felt like he betrayed his friends who he'd been friends with for a long, long time. He'd been through the motions with us. I think that the recent comments I've seen from Jack to the media as well have slightly rocked my feelings towards Jack. I never rated Jack massively. I thought he was a good player on his day, but as you said at Everton, they've seen the two sides of Jekyll and Hyde of Jack Harrison, because he can be so good in one game or 2 games a season, and then he'll go missing for 10, and he'll be arguably one of the worst players on the pitch. So, I don't want to see Jack in a Leeds shirt again, personally. But the other 3, I think we will.
Interesting. Because there is a split for me from what I've seen online. Now, I'm using Twitter as a microcosm for the entire Leeds fan base, which is probably a bad idea to start with. But from looking around at it, there seems to be a grouping of people who will accept Jack Harrison back, no problem. But then there's a grouping of people who will not take anybody else back. None of the rest of them, but Jackie gets a buy. Now, I'm in the same bracket as you, Luke. Jack knew the history of the club. He's been here for a while. He's succeeded here. he arguably has his career kick-started at Leeds after a dreadful loan spell in Middlesbrough, which would have seen him go back to New York, because Man City didn't know what to do with him at that point. They'd taken him over, and then he was supposed to go back to New York, and the Leeds stepped in. Bielsa brings him in, and he had a shaky enough first season, second season, very, very good, But Jack owes for me an awful lot to Leeds. And I think the first time it was tested with Jackie was the relegation. It was like, well, do you want to give anything back to Leeds now? And he chose to walk. And that for me, I am the same. I think Jack Harrison, Everton fans will find out between January and March, Jack Harrison will go missing because it's mucky and cold. And then you'll see the best of him the last 5 games of the season again.
Yeah.
But I'm not in a rush to see them Jack come back.
Sorry to interrupt you. I think it's worth considering as well. How will the rest of the squad feel about these players returning?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. That's a great point.
Because that's more important than what we think as fans. Because to reintegrate these players that have left a team that's just been relegated, to be whether we're in the Championship or the Premier League next season, regardless of where we are, to have these players just waltz back in through the door and think like everything's going to be hunky dory. It's not going to happen. It's not. It's simply not. You put yourself in the position of some of the players that could have left. Somerville, Rutter, probably Nonto.
Options.
Some of these players that are probably a lot. Well, they are much better than the players that left, and they've decided to stay. We didn't hear a whisper from Somerville or Rutter about wanting to leave in the summer. Not a whisper. There was interest in Somerville, we believe, don't we? And for Rutter as well. But we didn't see any of this kicking up a stink, and they didn't choose the first door that opened to them. They decided to stay. So picture we do get promoted, and these players have worked hard all season for, and these lads just think they can walk back in through the door. It's not going to happen. And I think Leeds will be cautious of that. I think they will, and I think if that is the case, they will know their characters better than we will as fans, and I think there'll be a lot of discussions going on when it gets later in the season and towards the end of the season as to the plans, because we might just have to cut our losses and just let them go. Like not literally let them go, but let them go on loan again somewhere else or whatever, and until we get a decent offer for them. But yeah, it's a tough question, that, Jer. I like it.
I think the main thing that the sticking point in this is that Farke's overseen all these players do one as well. So he's been there from the start, and he's going to know. So if they get bolted out straight away at the beginning of the season, then you know what's gone on. If he keeps some of them around, then maybe there's something else to it. That could be it. Yeah.
Well, Farke said he only wants players who want to be here.
Yeah.
He said that quite openly, didn't he? And that hence the reason we let Cine go on the last day and Adams leave and everything else. So because I think they tried really hard to keep hold of Adams, didn't they?
Yeah,
so
they did. And Cine. I mean, the fact that he was playing the guy means it, but it's going great for him at Bournemouth right now, isn't it? Yeah. That all worked out so well.
I seen someone put on Twitter yesterday. I think it was, what was the name, Lord? Sinister lift. That was amazing. They had me in stitches for ages. He's always out. Sinister.
I was trying to figure, was he out of the team because he was traveling back from Colombia? But then I looked into national games. I don't think he was an unused sub for Colombia. So it wasn't that. So he's out of the squad.
So he's
They're
fit.
19th in the table. Their manager has said the manager's under huge pressure, and Cine doesn't even make the bench.
So they tried to copy us, didn't they? Take our manager, take our players, snatch our players when they're doing medicals. It's not going so well.
Did you see the kid from the Bournemouth that was doing the rounds today as well, where he was saying like, "Oh, we've taken their manager, we've taken their play," because Max Aarons was one Thursday sign, but he was talking about how you might get more fans, you might sing more, but we're in the Premier League and you're not. I was like, well, not for long, mate. Not keep going the way you're going, and those players haven't worked out well. The next time you'll see Tyler Adams is maybe February, probably March. By which stage you could be relegated already, and City's having zero impact. And you bought him. You bought Adams, and you're stuck with that. We got 5 million of profit on that as well, so that didn't work out particularly well. It's terrible to see it, isn't it?
Imagine being out for 6 months, 6-7 months, and then going back to play the way Adams plays, and you're in a relegation dogfight, and he's not going to be 100% fit when he goes back in as well. He's a silly boy, that Tyler Adams. But we're lucky as well. We're lucky because we wouldn't have had him till February, and
Yeah,
we wouldn't have bought these other players that we've got because we wouldn't have got that money in.
Ampadu especially probably would have wouldn't have, would have been the one you probably didn't go after because you have that CDM role there.
Yeah.
But terrible to see it happening. Shocking. Good. Anyway, I was going to say something else about them as well. Oh yeah, I look forward to seeing the Bournemouth fans' reaction when Tyler Adams threatens to sue the club when he gets relegated to be released. Because that's coming.
I wonder if we get a picture of his Hawaii 5-0 agent with him as well.
The worst.
I did say Tyler Adams. He dressed. Have you ever seen the way he used to turn up to the matches? Yeah. He looked like the kid at the end of Big with the clothes that were too big for him. Just standing there like that. It's just
George's clothes are debatable as well. His stuff as well. And do you remember those boots Calvin wore? The sand colored weird thing that
moon boot things.
I'm officially too old. I now look at what people are wearing going, I don't get it. I don't understand any of this. I'm officially too old to comment on players' clothes. Lads, lastly, just to kind of have a quick chat about the Stoke game. We haven't had the press conference yet. That's tomorrow. Kev, would you make any changes for the game going into Stoke tomorrow night or Wednesday night?
I'll just take Archie Gray off, for being honest with you, give him a bit of a rest. And I'd probably put Shaq's in tomorrow. That would be the only change I'd make. Because Piro's had his off game now, so Wednesday will be his on game. Yeah, so you got to leave him in. I'll just put Shaq in. That's all I'll do in that team. That'll be it.
Luke,
good question. I'd like to see Jaden Anthony get a start. I think he looks really dangerous when he comes on. I think Dan James played all right the other day. I think he missed his chances, but he made the majority of them with his runs himself. So I wouldn't mind seeing Jaden Anthony. I think Willie might get a start. I wouldn't change anything. I think we will see a few changes. I think probably Jaden Anthony probably starts. I think Willie probably gets a start as well. Maybe rest Cree. I think Shaq comes in as well. And anybody else? Maybe even Pat.
Yeah.
Maybe.
He's knocking on the door, all right. I think he's far off it.
He's just one goal away from turning his season around, though, isn't he, Patrick Bamford? He's one goal away from being everyone's hero again. Hopefully it's Wednesday.
As long as he doesn't do this when he scores.
Yeah. I don't think he will now.
I'm going to lose it.
I think he's past that now. Now
he's not getting any abuse, is he? He's not getting any abuse at the moment, is he? So it's all right because we're winning. Because we're winning matches. If we're losing, we'd be getting it. So
I don't want to abuse the guy. I want him because I always say the same thing. Like, I don't want him in the team necessarily. I didn't want him starting this year, but I want us to move on as a club past the older players more so than just getting rid of Pat. But some of the times the things he does don't help him. He doesn't help himself sometimes. I mean, pre-season he did it. I know there was a debate whether who he was cupping his ear to, but he cupped the ear, and you're like, you've got a bad history with that, mate. I'd stay clear. Right now, no one's on his back, no one's on his case, and it'd be nice to see him come back in, score a goal, do things the right way, and just put last year behind him properly, and move on with it. But I would like to see it. Don't know if I will though.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know whether he'll get a start. I think I think if we don't see major changes tomorrow, Wednesday, I think we might see them at home to Huddersfield on Saturday.
Do you think Farke is looking at the game? Like how I would assess the game against Norwich if I was picking a team for Stoke, I wouldn't look at the second half of the game. I think I'd look at the first half because the change is kind of outside of Dan James' goal. After that, the change is kind of fixed the scoreline a bit. But prior to that, it wasn't great. So, I mean, I would wonder how Farke is analysing that game. Does he look at it as the whole thing, go, yeah, we got results, great, we'll go as we were? Or does he look at the first half of the game and go, well, that really wasn't good enough up until the changes happened, make the changes before the game starts this time around and try a different team? Because you could do it midfield as well. I thought it was probably the weakest game Glenn Kamara had up until probably 5-10 minutes before he got taken off. And he still managed to get involved in a goal, but I thought he'd an anonymous enough game by the standards he set this year for himself. So there's obviously an argument about midfield too as well. You could change that up a little bit as well, but I don't know if I could trust Scroove enough to put him in just yet. But I'm sure we'll find out tomorrow. We'll get some information around what he's going to do with injuries and everything else tomorrow. I would expect a couple of sore legs tomorrow. Yeah. We'll have to we'll have to wait and see. Lads, massive thanks as always for joining me. The guys' description to the channels are down below. Kev from Leeds House and Not Another Leeds podcast. The collaborations the guys do once a week. If you want a bit of entertainment in your podcast and a bit of jokes, go check them out. They're worth a laugh. It's really, really good. The lads are excellent over there as well. And you can check Luke and the Art to Know Better guys out in the link below in the description as well. And then finally, just a quick thing to rattle off a few logistics. We still have the 15% discount from Toffs if you want to get a Leeds retro shirt for 15% off. Discount code is TheView15. You put it in your shopping basket and you get that. And also, Bite Your Legs fanzine magazine will be on sale at the ground for the Huddersfield game. Their second edition, and I've written a piece in that as well. So that's going out. You can buy it now online, or you can collect it around Ellen Road on Saturday. Yeah, great, folks. Massive thanks as always. Kev, I'm going on the channel this week. You want to update anybody on?
Yeah, we've got Joe on Friday. We're doing like a Halloween spooky special on Friday, so apparently we've got a dress up too, so hopefully that should be a bit of fun. I'm actually recording one today as well, and then also doing another one on Sunday too. So yeah, we got quite busy now trying to get more videos out.
Yeah, doing great, mate. I really enjoyed being on last week as well. It was a lot of fun.
Thank you. Cheers,
Luke,
mate.
how about you boys? What's going on with you?
Yeah, same old at the minute. We're doing a Baradian Coke tonight, so when by the time this is going out, you'll have missed it. Then we got the weekly pod Tuesday night, so tonight when you watch this, and then probably another BNC Thursday after the Stoke game, and then there'll be another one after the Town game on either Saturday or Sunday as well. So yeah, just the usual stuff really.
Cool. All right, folks, go check him out. Links are in the description down below. Check him out. And even if you missed Berardi and Coke, check on the rerun. It's really good. It's good watch always. So you can check that out as well. Massive thanks again. And I will see you tomorrow for Leeds News. Have a great day. Talk to you then. Bye.
Cheers, Jack.